It's a little bit different from a lot of, I think, other cultural centers, and that it's not a community center, but it's a cultural center. And you know, speaking to a lot of members of the Japanese Canadian community, you know, they've told us that one of the reasons that they felt that there was this persecution during the Second World War was essentially due to ignorance and a lack of knowledge about who the Japanese Canadians were in terms of who they were as people, their culture, etc. And of course, that ignorance created fear, and fear is what ultimately led to the terrible mistreatment of the loyal Japanese Canadian community. So one of the important pieces of the JCCC's mandate was to teach all Canadians and to share Japanese Canadian or Japanese culture and Japanese Canadian heritage with all Canadians. So in other words, to make sure that something like this was never going to happen to the Japanese Canadian community again, and or any other community for that matter. So I think there are incredible lessons implicit in the Japanese Canadian history that are just as valuable in the political climate we see today as it was in the 1940s. So that's essentially what the Cultural Center exists to do. The motto has always been friendship through culture, and to be honest, it's that inclusiveness that is the reason that the Japanese Canadian Cultural Center has continued to grow over the last 50 years, and we continue to see that. This center gets larger and more active and more sort of vibrant, we like to think, every year. We do annual festivals, things like a summer festival, spring festival. We do a festival in the autumn called the Road to Asia, where the community shares this building with all of the other different Asian communities and does a big Pan-Asian festival. We also do a festival at New Year's. We do an annual bazaar. So there are a lot of those sorts of things that started 40, 50 years ago when the first cultural center was built, and those traditions continue. There's also a lot of regular courses and programs that go on here in Japanese language. As you know, a lot of Japanese Canadians, following the internment, their parents did not pass the language on to the next generation. So a lot of them are sort of third and fourth generation Japanese Canadians reconnecting with the language, and then a lot of other Canadians just with an interest in things Japanese. So people who are interested in contemporary Japanese culture, manga, anime, and they want to be able to have better access, I guess, through the language. We have about 4,000, slightly under 4,500 members. We have 200,000 visitors annually. And we also do programs for school children that introduce them to Japanese culture and a little bit about the history of this community. And we have about 15,000 school kids coming annually for those programs as well. So traditional Japanese arts like flower arrangement, calligraphy, brush painting. We do regular film screenings. We do an annual Toronto Japanese Film Festival. That was a new and very big event. We brought in 12 films that were all either Canadian or North American premieres, and we kind of surprised ourselves. We had about 4,000 people come for 12 films. So we have an incredibly active heritage committee that are running heritage and art shows in the gallery regularly, putting together the SEDI project, and again, rarely a few weeks goes by without some kind of event or workshop very specific to the history of the community. We also do regular workshops in things like shiatsu and cooking and Japanese music. We do regular Japanese performances, some from the community, like the Kohaku, red and white singing show that's just been going on for about 30 years here. But a lot of performers come in from Japan as well. And in our Kobayashi Hall, we've had a lot of concerts with Japanese pop groups, as well as Canadian artists, and then traditional Japanese performers from Japan, things like No theater, kabuki, kyogen, gagaku, etc. Traditional Japanese puppet theater and taiko, etc. So maybe the jewel in the crown of the Cultural Center right now is the Kobayashi Hall, which is a 7,000 square foot multi-purpose hall that can act. It has stadium-style seating that is bleacher style. They're comfortable seats, but the entire thing can fold away. It has a 40-foot by 60-foot performance stage, but again, that can be completely removed. It has the acoustic design was done by the same people who did Roy Thompson Hall. So essentially, it can be used for performances. We've recorded albums in there. It can be done. It can act as a cinema. When we take everything out, we can hold everything from product launches and corporate events, gala dinners, martial arts tournaments. So it's very much a multi-purpose space, and it's again one of those parts of the building that is in constant demand. It's a busy place, and it continues to get busier. We have a small staff. We have lots of volunteers. But we don't pretend to have the expertise to do everything that happens in this building ourselves. So we have a lot of community partners. So for example, we have a Japanese daycare center here, but we don't run the daycare center. It's sort of they come in and on a kind of a shared space basis, sort of an informal kind of a leasing situation. So that's run by experts. We have a Japanese restaurant here, again, run by a Japanese restaurateur. That again is essentially a partnership rather than something that we're trying to do ourselves. And the same goes with Japanese social services, Nikkei Voice, and we're bringing in some non-community tenants as well, strictly on a leasing basis. So we're trying to use those revenue incomes to sort of help us to pay for the wider cost of the building. It's an expensive place to run. We have a state-of-the-art dojo with change rooms. We have two 3,500 square foot dojos, one with tatami mats, 120 tatami, one with a sprung wood floor. We have 8 different martial arts disciplines. So Judo, Aikido, Kendo, Iaido, Naginata, Shorinji Kempo, Karate, and probably a couple of others that I've forgotten at the moment. But we've got over 600 dedicated martial arts members, and if you go to our martial arts dojo, either in the evening or on the weekends, it is definitely the busiest part of the building. So it's, yeah, martial arts is one of the real cornerstones of this cultural center, both from the cultural side as well as the business side of things.